Hi guys, this is AruvaChan. Today I'm going to tell you a real life thing that happened to me and a group of friends back in the summer. So it would be summer of 2017, I believe. So I was just, I'm just starting to kind of branch out of my shell. I'm a really shy person, so whenever I get the chance, I'm hanging out with new people, and I'm always trying to make new friends. And I had recently just made friends with this, sort of group of people. I had already known a few of them, so it wasn't too bad. Like, I had my people that I can turn to when I felt awkward, and I can just, smile at them, whatever. Well, we had taken to going to cemeteries in the middle of the night. Why? Well, I know if you are any sort of mountain kid, you've probably done this. And, I don't know if it's just a mountain kid thing, because the only thing that's around here is cemeteries. There's one right down the street from my house. So I wasn't really nervous about this, and the first few times I was really nervous, but after the third or fourth time we had gone to the cemetery, a cemetery, it wasn't too bad. So I really liked this guy in our group. And out of these three characters right here, they're not characters, they're my friends. Oh my gosh, characters. Out of these three people right here, he is the small one, and he is by no means small. He's just the smallest of those three friends. I think he's probably 5'9", he's probably 5'10". I am very short, and that's tall for me. I don't know if that's not tall for you, but we had all decided to go out to the cemetery that's near my house and bring the Ouija board. Now, if you know anything about Ouija boards, you know you are not supposed to do this. Well, we are not smart, and we did not care. And I really regret that now, because we had to learn a very, very hard lesson, a very scary lesson. But, we drove out. They drove to my house. I went and picked up my one friend. He's the one in the middle. I picked him up because he lives a few blocks down the road from me. And we all parked at my house. And there's a little church that's right next to my house, right across the street. And my other friends parked their car there, and we all walked up to the cemetery up by my house. Unlike us being stupid, we were like, haha, let's bring the Ouija board. Nothing can happen to us. We're invincible, whatever. I think I just heard thunder. I'm really scared. Genuinely scared. I think it's raining outside too, so it's just adding. But me and my friends walked up to the cemetery, and you have that kind of jittery feeling when you're doing anything in the middle of the night. Maybe you don't know, but it's not fun. I always get really nervous, to the point of, almost peeing myself, where I'm just really scared. But, we had made it, and we only had the light from our phones, because nobody carries around a flashlight anymore. It's just, you got a flashlight on your phone. So we used that. We walked around the cemetery, and we basically, tried to find a good spot to settle down, and start Ouijaing. This is a very public cemetery, so anybody could be in it at any time. They don't usually allow you to be in after dark, but there's no gates or anything. And, they have Pokestops. So I have been there in the middle of the night before just because I've been going, like, Pokemon hunting with my friends or my brother. And, like, it's not unusual for us to go there in the middle of the night. Like, they've got, like, a place where, you know, you can go in and talk to the caretaker. So we actually walked a little bit past there, and we sat down in the middle of the road. Like, you could see, like, I turned and you could see forest, and you turn back, you see more cemetery, and behind us was more cemetery. And we sat down, and I remember feeling so, like, immediately, like, as soon as we, like, touched the planchette, I felt drained. Like, I had zero energy. None at all. So I was like, hey, I'm not feeling this. Like, I don't think I can do the Ouija board right now. And, like, I was like, you guys can do it, but I'm not touching it anymore. Like, because I'm really, like, I don't know why, I'm very superstitious about that kind of stuff. Like, it was my Ouija board, which I eventually did give to the girl in this video. I gave it to her, and it was glow-in-the-dark, and if you know me, you know I love glow-in-the-dark stuff. Like, I have a glow-in-the-dark nail polish right next to me. But, I didn't want it at all, like, after that. So, they were playing on it, and they weren't getting anything at all. And I was just sitting there, like, watching it, like, super nervous now and super tired. And about, you know, an hour into us just hanging out at the graveyard, not getting anything, my one friend was like, well, why don't we go to our usual cemetery, which is the cemetery pictured here. Now, that cemetery it's up somewhere called Boone Mountain, and it's about a 25-minute drive from, like, the edge of town. So you have to go up into the mountain past, like, cabins and stuff. And if you live in a mountain town, you've got town, and then you've got, like, the cabin areas around town, and then it's just the woods. So we had gone past all of the cabins, and you drive through the woods for, like, a good 15-20 minutes just to get to the cemetery. Like, you have to go down a huge, like, dirt gravel path and then up another one, and it's got, like, a little turnaround when you get all the way up to the top. And every single time we went there, I felt like I was being watched. So they made this suggestion of going there, and I felt like I couldn't move. Like, I felt like I was falling asleep, which is never a good thing when you're dealing with, you know, like, supernatural stuff. So I was like, no, I'm just gonna go home. Like, I couldn't do that. Like, I couldn't. So I told them, I said, you guys can go, like, you've got your own car, like, I'll take you home, or we can head home. But I can't do it. Like, I'm physically exhausted right now, and I don't know why. Like, right now, the time is 1:10 a.m., and, like, I keep, like, looking back behind me because I'm so nervous. But it was, like, 3 o'clock at that point when we were at the cemetery. So I was like, I can't do this. Like, it was getting close to, like, 3:33, and I was like, not doing that. Because apparently that's also a haunted numbers, and, you know. So I told them, you guys can go. Like, tell me how it went. Like, I'm sure you'll find something because it's a super creepy cemetery. And, like, but I gotta go. Like, I can't do this. And, you know, isn't it the one time you don't go, something happens? So, this branches out a little bit. This is all, you can believe this or you can't, like, you don't have to believe this. I've had people say, oh my god, that's terrifying. And I've had other people say, that's not real. So, believe this or not, I actually got a message the next morning saying, like, we left almost as soon as we got there. Like, this is what I woke up to. I got, like, them telling me what had happened. I said we left almost as soon as we got there. Like, some crazy stuff started happening, and it's probably a good thing you didn't come. And, like, me sitting there, like, I sometimes scare myself bad enough that I can't sleep at night, and I'll stay up till 6 in the morning when the sun comes up. So I was thinking, like, wow, that is probably a really good thing that I didn't go with them if they got scared. Like, these people, the girl, we'll call her, you know, Toffee. Toffee doesn't get scared easily. And, we'll call these guys foods and, like, drinks. We'll call the girl Toffee. The guy in the middle, Coco, and the small guy, you know, Egg. So Toffee, Coco, and Egg were going, or no, I'm not trying to retell the story. They are the tallest people I know. Toffee is, what is she? She's at least 1.5 feet taller than I am. So probably, no, that's too much. She's probably almost 1 foot taller than I am. She's probably 6 something. Egg is 5'10", like I said, and Coco is 6'4", I believe. So really tall people. Coco used to be a basketball player, and like, he went to school to become a police officer. So he wasn't really, he's not scared often. So, like, when he is, I know it's real. And Egg had, like, a death wish, so this is why he did it. But, like, so did Toffee. Toffee and Egg usually do these things by themselves. And, like, they invited me and Coco with them. So, I messaged Toffee. I said, hey, Toffee, what's going on? Like, what happened? Because all I had gotten was, it's probably good you shouldn't have gone, some weird stuff happened. So I asked her, I said, Toffee, what happened? And I waited, like, a good half hour, because I saw, like, I asked her in Snapchat, and I saw her little person sort of just, like, hanging out in there. I was like, oh, maybe she's waiting for me to say something, but, like, half an hour went by, and I finally got a message, a long, like, set of messages on what had went down. And she says, well, we got there. We almost had a little bit of trouble because I have got a small car, and, like, her car got stuck all the time on that hill, which is terrifying because it's, like I said, in the middle of the woods on a slant. And, like my picture depicts, a little later on you'll see, it's almost entirely pitch black. Like, I drew the place from memory. That's how, like, vivid it is reminded, how vivid it was in my brain. The cross in this is Emily's cross, by the way. Emily, we have a thing that's been going around our group saying Emily is cursed people, which is kind of scary to talk about. I don't really want to talk about it. But, I know a kid, and he used to be my little brother's best friend, who stole the cross. And, he then got into a 4-wheeler accident, like, a few days after. And you can think, well, that's just a coincidence, but, like, everybody was thinking it at the same time when I brought it up in my group. But anyway, back to the story. I asked Toffee what happened, and she sent me a huge thing. And, I also asked Coco what happened, and, I had asked Egg too, and Egg just said to ask Toffee, but I had asked these 2 different people, and they both, like, corroborated on this story, so I definitely believe them. Like, I don't think they would just lie to me about it. They said, when they got there, it was dead quiet, which is unusual, because usually there's birds or, you know, something, which is why, you know, it kind of freaked them out. And I have gone to the cemetery afterwards, and I have listened, and there's, like, bugs chirping, and, like, you can see an occasional bug floating past your phone, and they were saying that this wasn't happening. It wasn't happening at all. And it was deadly quiet. So they went in, they brought the Ouija board with them. They went into the cemetery, which, like, as soon as they crossed the threshold of the cemetery, they started hearing something walking around the edge of the cemetery. And they set the Ouija board down, and they started getting everything out. Like, it's in a box, so they started getting everything out. And the, like, footsteps, like, got closer to the edge. The edge is completely surrounded by a stone wall barrier, and there's a gate with a fairy on it, which I don't trust that fairy. That fairy freaks me out. So they could hear the footsteps, and, like, they would stop. And Toffee said that they picked up the board. They picked up the board and they ran back to the car, which apparently was a big mistake because they just stopped and listened. And all three of them smoke. So they had the windows sort of down on the car, and they were smoking, and they could hear the footsteps getting closer to them. And so they, you know, they were quiet, and the sound stopped right outside Egg's window. And he later told me a smell started rolling into the car window, and he said it smelled like rotting meat. Now, Toffee had looked it up a little while later, and Toffee said that that is a sign of a demon. I was like, oh my god, like, you guys, you're okay though, right? And they're like, oh yeah, well, yeah, we're fine, but like, everybody's a little shook up. So she continued with the story of they got out of the car. Now, my friends, they are smart people, but when it comes to taking risks, they are not smart people. So once the, you know, footsteps walked away, they got out of the car with the Ouija board again, took the Ouija board into the graveyard, and they started hearing the walking again. Like, they probably didn't even have time. Well, I know they didn't have time to put the planchette on the board, but they didn't have time to put the planchette on the board. That's how fast it started again. And, like, oh, just thinking about it's giving me the creeps. Oops. I have to listen to music when I do this because I'm actually genuinely, like, kind of terrified. So that was my headphone that you probably just heard drop. I said to Toffee, you guys got out of the car after you heard this? And she said, well, yeah, like, we just thought it might have been like an animal or something. So they hear it walking around the edge again, and they bolt back to the car. So that's essentially the picture that I'm drawing right now, is I'm drawing what they were doing. Like, they were getting out the Ouija board, and at that cemetery there's no lights, even though I have taken pictures of things, like, in the background with lights and like balls of light. Like I said, super creepy cemetery. But like, they had packed everything up after the second time they heard the walking, and they left. Like, they completely left. And I play with Coco on Xbox every few days. Like, he's got a job that he, you know, works night shift at, but, like, every weekend he takes off. There's a lot of factories up in the mountains, apparently. Well, where I live, there's a lot of factories. But I waited to see what Coco would say about it. So I waited until I was on Xbox with him and was like, hey, so I heard you had some pretty crazy adventures, like, last weekend. And he said, yeah, I didn't believe in that kind of stuff before, but I think I do now. I definitely do now. And I was like, oh really? Like, what happened? Like, said her name. Toffee. You couldn't really hear her name. I just said Ka. Toffee told me a little bit of what happened, but like, what happened with you guys? And he said the same exact thing, and he said he wasn't too sure what actually happened, because he was sitting on the same side that Egg was sitting on. He said he could smell meat, and it smelled really bad for whatever reason. And my friends were smoking in the front, and he said he looked in the graveyard, and now he was like, now I don't know if this was just me seeing things or if this was just, you know, my eye or whatever, but I could have swore I saw someone in the graveyard. And I was like, really? And he was like, yeah, it was probably just my eyes, and but I definitely saw something, like, it was almost as tall as I was, maybe taller. And I was sitting there, and I got chills up my spine. And I really wanted to sort of recreate. I'm sorry, I keep hearing things. Like, all of my lights are on, and I don't know why I'm scared. But I wanted to recreate this, and I'm going to send him this picture and see what he thinks. He's probably gonna be like, why did you draw this? Like, I don't want to see this. Actually, I'm not gonna show it to him because he's probably gonna get freaked out. But I genuinely was like, wow, like, I scared myself in my own house, and I definitely think I would have probably passed out if I had been anywhere near this kind of situation. Like, I'll give you an example of how scared I get. I was walking in my living room the other day, and it was probably 3-something at night, because I stay up pretty late. But I went in. So we have a sunken living room, like, which is, I don't know, we have our Christmas tree in it still. You have to walk past it, like, through some sort of, like, breezeway. It's like from the hallways to the living room, there's like a little foyer kind of area. I don't know. Well, I walked through that to get my cat, and I was walking back, and there's no lights on in the sunken living room. So I, like, because I am me, I turned and I looked. I could have sworn that I had seen a little girl. Like, I froze, and I completely froze for maybe a second, and, like, I had my cat in my arm, and I was, like, almost halfway turned, and it really did look like Samora off of, like, The Grudge, and, like, long black hair and white dress, and just, like, was standing there. And I looked at it for, like, maybe 2 seconds. I was like, oh, like, I saw it was a chair instead of, like, a little girl. But I know how easily you can scare yourself with this kind of stuff. So what he was thinking, like, he could have just, you know, imagined seeing something, but honestly, I really don't know. I don't know. I've been to that place, and I may even put in a couple pictures, because it really is. It's an interesting place. I'm not a fan of it. I know a lot of people are always saying, like, oh, ghosts don't exist, or, you know, well, I don't get why you use a Ouija board, like, it's not real. But I've never had scarier experiences than using Ouija boards. And I still use Ouija boards because it's like a party thing, like you do it at parties or whatever. Me and my friends are not too bright in that sort of sense. Like, we had gone, me and two other friends had gone to my one friend's camp, and we had brought her Ouija board since I no longer had one. We had brought hers, and this was maybe 3 months ago, maybe, because I remember asking her if she wanted a Christmas present. Maybe about 3 months ago, and it was cold in his camp, and he didn't have any heat on because they are remodeling. And for all of you city folks, a camp is just a cabin, basically. Like, past all the cabins on our way to this cemetery that I'm drawing, we passed all the cabins. Those are camps. And so we went to his camp, or his cabin, and we had brought candles, because you can't do Ouija unless you have candles or are in a cemetery, apparently. So we brought candles, and we started talking to something, and the candles started to dim a lot. Like, candles usually burn brighter longer when it's like after they're lit. And I'm sorry, I keep coughing. I'm still sick. What can you do? But they started to dim, and they weren't going out, but they were getting darker. And I'm not sure if that was just the kind of candles we had bought, but we also heard a bump, which after the bump, my one friend was like, we're not getting anything. We should leave. Like, so we all said goodbye, and we got up, and we actually left through the part that was being renovated, so it was quite open. And it was like, we didn't even leave, and I was like, did you guys hear those noises? And he was like, no, you need to stop. Like, stop saying things. I know we need to get home before we say anything. And I was like, okay. But like, that kind of stuff, it definitely freaks you out. Like, I don't know what it is about, like, and honestly, we haven't stopped doing this, even though we, somehow contacted a demon or whatever. We still Ouija. Like, I had gone, my friends took me to a abandoned house, maybe a week before Christmas. They had taken me to an abandoned house, like, just the driveway, because it was snowy, and we're not very smart, so we were driving at night, and my friend was testing her, skills of driving, so she was trying to make herself spin out, or trying to drift as best she could, so she wouldn't, get hurt if she did ever, fishtail in real life, which we did eventually fishtail another night, and she was like, well, all of that practice I literally just did the other day didn't do anything. But we had drove up to the abandoned house, and there, you could only see a little tiny bit of it. Like, you could see the porch and part of, a great, big tree in front of it. They said, well, there's an open well in the back, and they'll have to take me there to Ouija sometime, because somebody definitely died there. Like, if it's abandoned, then, it's definitely, either somebody didn't take care of it, or some old people were living there and they just died. So, we still do this kind of stuff. We're still really dumb, and, it's still really scary. When we were in the driveway, could look side to side and it's all open fields because we live in the farmland. So whoever lived there had been probably a corn farmer. And it's like a thing, you don't learn your lesson because there is no lesson to be learned. Like, we're out here doing this because it's, scary. It's fun and it's scary, and it's the middle of the night, and we're, country kids who don't have anything better to do. And honestly, like, people who live in the city are probably like, oh my god, because that's how I used to be. I used to live in the city, and they like, just read a book or something. Like, you can only read so many books before you're like, I want to do something outside. And like, the way our area works is we don't have anything. Like, the only thing we have in our town is bowling, and it's closed almost all the time. So, and like, it's not open past 10 o'clock at night. So it's like, what do you do when you're, stupid and 20 years old in the middle of the night? And like, I don't drink and they don't drink, which is surprising, but well, some of them drink. I don't party. And there's not much else for you to do. What do? You go ghost hunting because there's lots of old places around. Now, whether that's smart or not, I guess you can decide. But I think that's about it for me today. I want to thank you guys for supporting me. I'm trying to upload more because it's just about the end of the month. So give me a like if you liked this, or if you thought it was interesting. Give me a like if you didn't like it. If you don't believe in ghosts, just because it's the nice thing to do, I guess. Or you can, you don't have to leave anything. Leave a comment if you've ever, contacted a ghost, because that's pretty creepy. It's pretty scary. But yeah, tell me if anything like this has ever happened to you. Have you ever ouija'd? Have you ever talked to a ghost before? Have you ever gone to a graveyard in the middle of the night? Would not recommend, but hey, it happens. Anyway, I'll see you next time, guys. Bye.